Hi, this is Mick Flavin, and you're in tune with Seamus Long on Irish Country Music Radio.
Longford I'll be, but when my rambling days are done, it's home in Longford I'll be.
Yes, home in Longford I'll be is right. That is Mr. Mick Flavin. And home in Longford at the moment is Mr. Mick Flavin as well. Mick, are you there? How are you going on?
Yes, Seamus, how are you? Long time no hear, no speak, as to say.
Yeah, long time no hear or speak is right. It's a little while as well. We knew each other on the phone when we were talking anyway, so we're not doing too bad.
That's right, yeah. I'm trying to remember the last time we actually met. I think was it at a festival somewhere or something?
Up in the Well in Moat, if I'm not mistaken, up there in the Well in Moat.
Yeah,
I think it was there we were doing, the charity night that Declan runs.
That's
up
right,
there.
that was it, for the Lourdes thing,
Lourdes trip, yeah.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, it was always a great whole night up there, loads of different artists and all. If anyone is looking for somewhere to go when all this COVID thing happens to pan out and get lost and go away and leave us alone, that is a night that you'll have to come up, and you might see myself and Mick and a load of other artists there as well, so.
But it's been a terrible year, Seamus, it's been very, very hard for the people in the music business, people with bands and even one-man bands and all like that. It's been terrible. Pubs all closed up and, it's been horrendous, so I don't think anybody that's kind of living at all now in the last, it's about 100 years since we had the last something like this. That Spanish flu, I think, was the last thing we had.
Yeah, the Spanish flu, I don't remember.
That was back in 1918, I think, or something like that. It killed a world of people, about 50 million people,
Yeah. Although, now, I wonder actually, is there anyone listening tonight that actually remembers that? Now that'd be, I'd say, to be fairly.
I would doubt it somehow. No, they'd have to be over. They'd need to be about 120 before.
You never know.
There might be. I doubt it. No. Maybe somebody in China might. Do they listen to you in China? They do.
Well, anyone that's listening in China, ni hao. Would you believe that is hello in Chinese? So I'm told anyway. Well,
is that right? Yeah.
There you have it. Now you're after getting an education, Mick.
Very good.
So, but anyway, talking about going back in the years, Mick, what got you started in the music business yourself, or how did you get into it?
Oh, I'll tell you the truth. I was always sort of mad about music, and then in our house years ago, we all loved music, and my father was he was a Kerry man. He came from Kerry, but he was a terrific singer, and he did a lot of Shannon singing and that, and we always loved the music. A lot of us in the house could sing, and I remember we got an old record player way back in the late 50s. It was about I was about 8 or 9 at the time, and sisters of mine and brothers of mine, they'd be sort of older than I, and they were all crazy about, at the time, rock and roll, and it was the big thing that time, and people like Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper and Elvis, of course, and all them. But I remember a neighbour of ours giving us a couple of albums of a few old vinyl albums of Hank Williams, and by Jenny, we started playing them, and I just sort of loved the stories and the lonesome songs and that kind of thing, and I sort of got hooked on country back then, and really, as the time moved on, then you had like Jim Reeves, and you had different artists coming to the scene, and Charlie Pride and different ones. But I suppose when there wouldn't be that many school concerts or anything like that at the time, but I remember the first time I ever sang on stage, there was an old road show that used to come around the country, McFadden's Road Show. And it came to Drumlish, and we lived out in Ballinamore, which would be about maybe 4 miles away. But I remember riding a bicycle into it, and they had this competition. They had different ones for over 10 and or under 10, under 12, and that kind of thing. And then they used to do these 1 and 2 and 3 act plays, and it was really great. Marcus McFadden and were a family show, like, you know, and they used to tour all around the country. But anyway, Jenny, I went up anyway and I sang, it was a song at the time. I didn't know who had the song, but I found it after. It was a song that Dr. Hook had. It was called "She Was Only 16." Yeah. So, Jenny, anyway, I sang that song, and didn't I win my I think it was 10 or under 10 at the time. I won that anyway, and I got this little cup anyway. So just hopped on the bike anyway on the way home with this cup anyway. So I was so delighted to have it, and I remember my mother inside in the kitchen and running in with this cup to her, and that was the kind of the start of show business for me. I was going on 10 at the time, and then I went to the technical school down in Balnamuck, and I used to run school concerts and stuff like that, and I would sing at them, and then that time, of course, there was no dancing during Lent. It was all the priest wouldn't allow any dances in the halls and that, and because there would be a lot of concerts put on and that kind of stuff. And I started singing at those, and that's kind of where and then when I was 16, then I left the tech in Balnamuck. But there was a fella starting up a band because and I didn't know the lad at all, but there was a fella who was very friendly with, Johnny Riley. He was from over near Arva. Well, actually near Gowna there, Lochgowna, and because he told me about this fella and I would have been interested. So I had an old guitar at the time and I could play a few chords on it, and so I went over one evening and I had a Honda 50 at the time and the guitar on the back, and Jenny met up with this fella anyway, a fella called Terry Curry. He's dead since, the poor fella, but anyway, there was 5 of us got together and we started rehearsing and playing songs, and I was singing songs, and there was a lad, he's dead too, the poor fella, T.P. Martin. He died young. He was only 45 when he died, but he was the lead singer, and I was just playing rhythm guitar and singing. I wasn't even singing country at that time. I was singing rock and roll and that. Yeah. And that was the kind of my first taste of being in a band. And because at the time we were used to playing in all the kind of parochial halls and dry halls. There was no bars around, only a mineral bar that time. And so anyway, because Larry Cunningham, Lord of mercy on him, and another man called Peter Sheridan, Peter used to manage Margot and Frank McCaffrey and different bands at the time. But they came to hear us a couple of nights rehearsing, and so anyway, because they were mad to take the band over. They wanted to take the band over and keep the same people in it, but put a new van on the road and a new PA, and we're going to put a man that owned the gear. They're going to put him in as a roadie, a road manager and that. But anyway, it never happened. The man wouldn't, he said, no, if we're going to make it, we'll make it on our own bat. Yeah. So anyway, the journey after about maybe a year and a half, nearly 2 years anyway, the thing broke up, and that was kind of the end of the music for me, as I thought anyway, and I went working in Dublin. But I came back again in 74, and I met up with a lad. He used to drum with a band called the Highlows, Jerry and the Highlows, you might remember them. Yeah. And because him and I and another man started this pub group, and that was in 1974. And because we used to play all the pubs and weddings and all that kind of stuff, and dances, any dances that would be going. So I'd done that for a good many years, and then in 1986, then I was down in Drumlish one night. I had built a house in Longford actually when I come back from Dublin, and but Jenny, I had sold the house in 1980, and I built this house I'm living in now. And because anyway, I met up with a fella. I only knew him, but not very well, Declan Herney, and he was down at the charity thing anyway in Drumlish. We were playing for some charity thing anyway in the pub called the Sharon Hill. And when it was over, we all sort of went into this old back room, and I was singing songs that I had learned, Jenny, when I was a young fella, Hank Williams stuff and that. And I remember Declan coming up to me and saying, he says, Mick, he said, you should go and record a couple of songs. At the time, the pirate radios were all, remember the pirate stations? Yeah. They were all very big at the time, and they were playing country music all the time. But anyway, I said, I want, and I had a good old job at the council. I was a maintenance carpenter with them, and then I was doing the gigs at the weekend. I said, look, I'm happy enough. And he said, no, I think you should, he said, you should go and do a few songs. But anyway, I didn't do anything about it, and about a month later, I met him in Longford one day in the town, and he said to me, God, I found out where there's a nice little studio over in Athlone, and we'll go over some Sunday. He says, I have your man's number and I'll ring him. So anyway, a few weeks went by anyway, and I remember Declan phoned in the house, and at that time we had no mobile phones around like that, but we got anyway. He says, I have this booked in for next Sunday. So I said, fine. So I had a few old songs anyway. Just he played most of the things that were played on it, and he played guitar and steel and bass and the whole lot, and we had a drum machine at the time, I remember. Well, anyway, we played the two songs anyway on the way home, and just I says, they don't sound too bad at all, you know. And we said we'd hop on and trot, and anyway we did 10 songs, I remember, and it came out at the Christmas of '86, and Jenny it got played all over the country, and it was played a lot in Dublin at the time. There was Jimmy Smith there. He was one of the Mighty Avens. He had a station called Treble TR Radio.
Yeah.
And I remember going up on a Saturday to do an interview with him, and when I was there, he rang the brother Peter. He was in the Mighty Avens as well, and he was managing different bands, Gene Stewart and Baggett Helen at the time. And because he rang the brother and he says, I have a man here, he says, from Leisure, from Ballinambuck. He says, you should... he has a tape out, and he'll get him to send you a copy of it, and you should have a listen to it, you know. So the week went by. I sent him the tape that after when I came back to home, and a week went by, and I heard nothing. So I said, he must be interested. So I rang his house. I had his number, rang the house, and I was talking to his wife, and she says, when he comes home, I'll get him to ring you. So he didn't ring that night, but he rang the next morning, and he said, I was playing the pubs at the time, and he said, are you playing anywhere kind of local? I said, I'm up near Granard on Saturday night, was it? So he came up anyway, and just he was very impressed with the singing and the whole lot. So he just said to me, you know, would you like to go with the business full time? And I said, I would. I said, because I'd up and tell him the story of what happened, was say back in '66, and this was 1986.
Yeah.
And Jenny, anyway, he said, well, look, I'll get a couple of days. He said, I won't get too many. I'll just get one or two dances and see how they go. And the first dance we played at was in a place called the Farnham Arms. Just at the back of the Farnham Arms was a club there called the Hoedown Club. And the Jenny, it was absolutely stuffed. There was about 500 people in it, and I couldn't believe it, to be honest with you. And that was the kind of, and that night that I was playing there was two different men from two different record companies. Jack McNeese was there from Harmac Records, and my man, what do you call him, Shea Hennessy, was there from K-Tel. So anyway, we ended up going to Harmac, and the first album I did for them was an album called I'm Gonna Make It After All. And John Ryan, that did a lot of the production for Daniel, and that he produced the album, and I recorded it in Lansdowne Studios in Dublin. And that was the start of it for me, really, Seamus, you know, and put a band on the road then in '87, about May, I think it was of '87, and I played to very bad crowds at the start, but once the album came out, it came out in August of '87. It kind of got played on the national radio, and then they did a couple of they did a DVD of it. Now, not a full DVD, but they did I think it was of one song or that, and they gave it mighty publicity and that, you know, on television and that, and that was kind of the start of it for me. That's the way it started, you know.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time. Like it's 34 years now, like since, you know.
34 years, yeah. And of course then all through the 90s then, it was nearly, there was two lads from Longford, you could say, yourself and Declan were kind of you were striding over the whole of the country scene, like near enough through the 90s. Yeah, like,
because
you know?
I remember Declan started then out on, he was with, the time he did the cassette for me, he was working with Brian Call at the time in Brian's band. And then about 2 years later, he sort of took the bull by the horns on. He did an album set of tapes that came out.
Tapes, yeah.
And a picture of your mother, I remember, was the first that he did. And because it took off, it flew for him as well. And sure he did fantastic business, like myself, for years and years, you know. But it was much easier then, I think, Seamus. You know, people were going out then and they were enjoying themselves, and you know, and I wouldn't condone drink driving or anything like that, but But, one of the greatest things was the smoking, because it was an absolute killer, like when you were playing on the pubs and that.
Oh, it surely was.
you know yourself, you've probably been doing that game yourself,
And
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, sorry. I was actually going to say the smell of the gear. You always had the smell of smoke off the
and
gear.
And your clothes then after that. Your clothes be Jenny the next day, sure they'd be, But, no, it was, I suppose, like, I was lucky at the time I came out, because, there was a lot of people going dancing then, and, there was people might go down to the pub and have a few drinks and go dancing then after that, and it was a different country then. I think it was, I don't know, there was great old crack in the pubs and all like that at the time too,
Yeah.
It's a whole different ball game to what now. So now, like, it's just, it's, the whole thing has changed,
There is big changes, all right. Like, I mean, there isn't, you don't see as many, like, people going out, as you say, to the like of the pubs or to I know that the social scene and all, and, the jiving and all has taken off in a big way again.
Well, the social dancing is good, like,
But as you say, like, I mean, the pubs, they're, like, I know myself, like, I mean, that when, the pubs years back, you'd have a venue and they could have a bar and a lounge, and both of them an act or an artist in, and both of them would be full. Like,
absolutely, and sure, even before that, I mean, when I think back and the time the carnivals were going, sure, Christ, they were unbelievable, the crowds. I remember going to see Big Tom one night down in a carnival down below Ballinamore, Carnegie was the carnival. 6-pole marquee, like, about maybe 3,500, 4,000 people in it, it wasn't safe to be in it, like, That's the truth, it was unbelievable. But, I know there were different times then, and I don't know, it's just, I wouldn't like to be starting the old business now, to be honest with you,
No, that'll be harder, all right.
It's a hard game now, for any, and especially now with this bloody virus too, like, it's stopping people from moving around, and whenever it'll end, I don't know, God knows when it'll end, but it's very tough now, I'm telling you, for anyone in the music game, or anyone that's totally dependent on it,
Yeah. You've been described yourself, Mick, as having one of the last real old style country voices. How would you? Yeah. Like, I mean, I've heard different people saying that over the years now,
Yeah. But I don't know, I suppose I grew up with that sort of, listening to George Jones and Buck Owens was one of my favourites now, to be honest with you. I love Buck Owens as well. I met him actually in Wembley back in 89. I did the Wembley Festival back in 89, and I met him that time and got a picture taken with him in that. But that was I suppose the older country, or I don't know, it was a bit more hardcore country, you call it. But it was, but that was the kind of stuff I loved and still love. And it's just, I suppose it's something you grow up with and that kind of thing, and that was the stuff that I love. And I actually recorded a new album during this whole crisis with the virus, and that I recorded an album up in Letterkenny there with a fella called Brian Kerrigan, and so I took I have a couple of singles taken off it. I had a song out back there a few weeks. I asked more. It's about 2-3 months ago. It was called The Best Thing Going, and then I have a song out at the minute there. It's only out about a week now. It's called Home in Longford, and that's on the new album as well. A fella called PJ Murray, I'm sure you know PJ.
Oh, I do, yeah, PJ.
Yeah, down in Clare. PJ wrote that song for me, and I have a nice song on it. Well, I've actually 2 songs of PJ's on it. And I have a nice song, a fella called Shoonie Cramps, Shoonie from up in...
Yeah, very talented man too.
In Donegal, yeah, and so I've 18 tracks on it altogether, Seamus, and so it's actually it's due out on I think it's the 18th or 19th of this month now. So look at it, people are buying it at the minute, even pre-sales there. You can buy it off my old internet, like buy it off their website and that. People wanted to buy it.
Yeah, we actually played Home in Longford there just before you came on. So,
oh, great. Lovely, yeah.
And, we're getting a lot of good feedback about that particular song.
Yeah.
So if the
album... It's a good song, yeah. Well, it's basically the story of, it's my story really, when I started out in Ballinammuck and that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah. And, well, actually, would you believe it, they have a few, there's Lev over, a guy called Lev Jackman in New Brunswick.
Right.
And he's listening in. And
in Canada, yeah?
Yeah, over there in Canada. And he was actually wondering, would you believe it? He just said that, he says that Mick can take a popular song and enhance it so much better than the original. And he says, if I recall correctly, he took Dolly Parton's song, Flowers Don't Care Where They Grow, and made it
the Wildflowers,
Wildflowers, yeah. And
that was a great song for me, yeah.
Yeah, a very popular song, like, you know, and he says, he says it's mentioned in his new song about growing up in his hometown in Ireland, and would love to know whether he has any plans for any shows in New Brunswick in Canada.
Oh, no, I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. I doubt it. It's very far away, do you know?
Yeah. It isn't like getting into
the van. A long journey on the bike, you know, wouldn't it?
Well, you did move up from the bike to the Honda 50, so, you know.
Well, that's right. I was doing great on the 50, and then I got a heavier bike, a 90, and just I could really move on that yoke, you know. My little Honda 50, yeah.
I was just going to say, Seamus more with the Honda 50, yeah.
That's right. But I suppose, like, it's the thing about playing. We did do Australia back in 2012. We did a month in Australia, and it was something I'll never forget. It was a great experience, and the people out there were absolutely lovely. They were just, you know, they loved the Irish out there as well, and so we did a lot of traveling. Like, there was some of the days we were driving for 8 and 9 and 10 hours, you know, but it's a massive country. It's unbelievable size.
Huge.
We only done kind of along the east coast of it. We didn't go over west at all, near Perth or any place like that. But like, I suppose you need to have everything set up, and you need to have a tour, and you bring your band over there or whatever. You need to sort of be guaranteed money too, you know.
Oh, you would.
You have to pay wages and pay the wages and all that, you know.
Yeah. It's not just the case of you into the back of the van, lads, and away we go down to Australia.
No.
You know, it's...
have the lads sleeping in the flight cases, you know.
We've done that too, haven't we?
They wouldn't like that somehow.
No. Well, I've done it myself, sleeping on the back of a van coming home. So, and as you say, you wouldn't recommend it.
No.
No. And,
especially if you had a good frosty night, like, you know.
Well, I'd say you did well, you see, the vans now are that little bit better, but even back in the late 80s when you were starting out yourself, things weren't easy.
We had at the time, we had the band called the Bright Lights. That was back in the 60s.
Yeah.
There was 5 of us. There was four fellas and a girl. The girl used to play Margaret Fitzpatrick. Margaret is at the minute she's in a nursing home now in a while in Cavan. But she was a great guitar player. But I mean, I remember the man that used to own the band, like Corey. He had one of them. Do you remember the old Volkswagen P&T vans?
Yeah.
Remember them?
Yeah.
Well, he had one of them, and he had a partition across in it, and we used to travel in it, and he'd bring the gear in it as well, like, you know. But I don't know, there was no heater on, God bless us and save us, like, you get out of it, like, you'd be just, you know, like somebody with rigor mortis, you know, you wouldn't be able to move for about 5 minutes after you'd get out of it, you know. I remember one night going to that boy to do a dance, and the fella that was running the dance, Jenny, something happened at home and he couldn't run the gig, but so we must have waited for an hour maybe outside the hall before he came to tell us. And I remember the inside of the van, the inside of the roof, you could see the frost dead on it. Pure white, you know. And here we were inside, like, you know, it was like a deep freeze, you know. Look at that. I suppose we were young and didn't care, really, you know.
It is a fact, all right. You put up with an awful lot of hardship when you're that bit younger, you know.
Well, look at it. When you're young, you don't feel the cold as much as when you get on in years either, you know.
Yeah, wrapped up in a coat and lying across flight cases and the like in the back of a van and hoping for the best. And, as you said, and you'd be only hoping that there was a heater that was working of some sort, like.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but sure, like nowadays, sure, like the bands have now, sure, they're, God bless us, compared to compared to years ago, like when the show band era was big stuff. I mean, like it's like a luxury now. I mean, like and they're playing. And that time, I often heard Philomena Begley, like that you'd have to change maybe in the back of the van if you were doing a marquee or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was the only place there was to change. And now it would be rough.
Yeah. Johnny Carroll was on with me a few weeks ago, and he was talking about.
Yeah. Go on, yeah.
He said that you'd be playing in a marquee somewhere, and that the stage would be a few pallets put up onto a few crates or something, and he said you'd be there trying to put on your fancy white trousers or whatever, your stage outfit, and hoping not, like trying to keep a grip onto something so that you wouldn't fall down in the muck, and that the legs of the trousers wouldn't get destroyed.
Who was telling you this, Seamus?
Johnny Carroll. Johnny.
Oh, Johnny, yeah. Oh, yeah, Johnny, yeah. Just as Johnny's seen it too, indeed. He's seen the two sides of it,
Oh, yeah, everyone sees the glamour end of it, like, but they don't see the boys arriving, as you say, with the frost on the inside of the van.
That's right, that's right.
And then having to change, like Philomena changing the back of the van.
And
and there'd be nothing too pleasing about it, like,
Oh, no.
Oh, and did you ever make it over to, like, because you have the old, as I said, American style of a voice and all that.
Yeah.
Did you ever make it stateside yourself, Mick, to?
Yeah, we did it. Well, we did a lot of cruises and stuff like that. You go out from Florida to like Fort Lauderdale, but one back in 2006, I was actually in Nashville a couple of times. I recorded an album there in 1999, and we went back in 2006, and we brought out a whole group of people out there. We brought out 160 people actually from Ireland.
All right.
And we took them to, the first place we went to was Memphis, and we went to Elvis's place, and we went to, on the way back down to Nashville, then we went to Loretta Lynn's place, and
right.
She is just a small little farm, 6,000 acres or so,
Yeah, sure, it's only an back garden.
And she had this museum then we were in, we didn't see her on, but she probably doesn't even live there, but she had a museum there, and all her silver and platinum and gold discs were all there, And then we went down to, we went to Nashville, and we stayed there for, I think it was 5 nights. And I remember meeting George Hamilton, George Hamilton IV, God rest him. He met up with us, and we were still on. We had three buses bringing the people around and that. And but anyway, George came in on one of the coaches anyway, and he brought us all around Nashville and different places that we never knew about. He brought us down to where Jim Reeves, where the plane crashed, and different places like that that weren't on the itinerary, you would say,
Yeah.
And then on the Saturday night, he, of course, everybody was going to the Opry, and because he took me out on the stage that night and on the Opry, and I got to sing with him. I sang 40 Shades of Green. And I remember we did the 2 shows at it, and there was a huge crowd. I think it was full up. There was 4,600 at each show.
Wow.
So that was a massive experience. And to be honest with you, it was something that'll always stay with me, just to get a chance to sing on the Grand Ole Opry,
Yeah.
And that was in 2006, yeah. So I haven't been back since, to be honest with you now.
And just as a matter of interest, now, just when you said about the Grand Ole Opry, if you were given a chance to duet with someone on, dead or alive, as the fellow says, like the Wild West, but who would you pick to do a duet with on the Grand Ole Opry stage if you were there now? If someone was able to transport you back there again and put you onto a stage with whoever, like even if you want to do a duet with, say 3 or 4, but if you just want to stick it as a duet, but who would you like to be on the stage with?
Well, I suppose there's a lot of the great singers are all gone, really. You're looking at some of the greats like George Jones and Merle Haggard and Cash, and there's very few left, to be honest, Seamus. I suppose Dolly would be, Dolly would be something else. Like I just love her voice, and
fabulous voice.
she's a fantastic way of putting a song across, and the feeling she gives to it is something else, you know. So someone like that now would be, you know, Loretta Lynn's was a great singer as well. I wouldn't give you tuppence for some of this newer country, the modern country. I like Alan Jackson, all right. And, but for me, the older guys, like, I mean, I'd listen to George Jones all day. You know, a lot of days I would play him here, actually, you know, I have a lot of his stuff from way back. But I just don't know, he does something for me anyway. I just love his voice, and he has such, like the More Than Dolly, he has such feeling, like, in his voice, and he's, you know, one of the all-time greats, you know. I met Charlie Pride several times as well. I met him, and I met Tom T. Hall too. And, I met a few of them during, you know, even away from Nashville, like, and that, you know. But, just nice, the old country music is lovely. I just love it, and, you know, it brings you to places you'd never get a chance to go, and you meet a lot of people that you'd never ever meet, you know, and that kind of thing. So, it's a great, for me, it's a great how life, because I worked for a long time at the carpentry business, and I was 20 years working as a chippy, like, and, then, see, it's a totally different life altogether now, like, you know, with the music thing, you know, and that's why you miss it so much now. This year it's like hell to not be able to go out and meet people and sing for people and that, you know.
Yeah, because a lot of people love the, you know, I mean, along with being able to go to the dance or to the concert or whatever, and, you know, to do their dancing, they just love to be able to meet the artist after, just for a bit of a chat. Like, I mean, that's right. It's the country music is different in that, you know, I mean, if you're a fan or a follower of a particular artist, you can actually go up and meet them. Whereas someone that's going to see some big pop star or whatever in concert.
Oh, yeah.
Or, like, I mean, they're looking at him from 50 or 100 yards away. You nearly need binoculars to see him. They're listening to the music.
Yeah.
But
that's you don't
get to, it's only kind of, if you happen to win a ticket for a meet and greet or pay a big lob of money after, like, I mean, to go up and meet the artist. But
that's true, yeah. That's a fact. I remember, I used to go dancing a good bit, like, when I was young and that, and I used to love going to Big Tom, you know, and there'd be always a massive crowd at him and that, but I never actually got to meet him, you know, and I was playing one night in the Galtymore, and with Jenny, when the gig was over, we were playing in the Iron Centre, and he was playing somewhere else in London or outside London, but when the thing was over with Jenny, didn't he come into the Galty and met me and, you know, wished me luck and everything, and I was a couple of years on the road at the time, but, you know, he was such a nice man, and he had such a lovely way with him, you know.
Yeah.
And it was lovely, and I have a photo of him and I that was taken in the Galty, and, you know, it's something, it's like the time I met Buck Owens, like, in 89 in Wembley, like, and have that picture up here on the wall, and then it's just fantastic, you know, to be able to say that you met those people, and you know.
Yeah, money can't buy that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, that's right, yeah. Mm-hmm. There are memories that you'll always have. You might, you know, you'll always have your memories anyway, no matter what else you have or haven't got, you know.
Yeah, there is. No, it's like you say, like, the country music has brought you to places, like, mean that, you know, and
absolutely.
And when you get his song, Mick, just as a matter of interest, because people say that you put a lot of emotion into a song, as you were saying there about Dolly and about George Jones and that. Do you pick a song because of a story it's going to tell, or
absolutely, yeah. If it's got a good story in it, that's the song I love. And country music, most country songs all have got a great story to tell, you know. And it's about, a lot of it is about everyday living and, you know, heartbreak and, you know, breaking up with somebody, or, you know, maybe the wife leaving or whatever, or, you know, there's it's so real, like, really, and country music is something you can sit down and listen to, or you can get up and dance to it, and, you know, that's the good thing about it, and that's what I love about it, you know.
Yeah, like, I mean, one of my favourite songs that you have done, it would be Papa's Wagon. And I mean, you know, you know the story of that yourself, like, I mean, just, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But Ray Lynham had that way back, like, you know, when I was going dancing, he had that song of Ray, and another fantastic singer, Ray Lynham, you know.
Yeah.
And but, you know, it's the story, like, it's the story that sells the song, really, and then you can sort of put your own stamp on it, and especially with slow songs anyway, you can put a lot of feeling into it, you know. That's what I like about it, you know.
And Ron Hinsley has written into me here, he says that his favourite song of yours is The Old School Yard.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Patsy Kavanagh. Patsy Kavanagh in Donegal. He wrote several songs for me, and before he wrote The Old School Yard, he wrote a song for me called Home to Donegal, which was a huge song for me, and then different people went on to record it, like Daniel and different ones. But I was telling Patsy, I never actually wrote a song, believe it or not, but I was telling Patsy about the old school in Ballymock that I went to when I was a young lad. And I was kind of describing it to him, and I said, you know, about the Wheel River running beside us and that. And I said I went back there just a couple of years ago, and I couldn't believe it. The whole thing was gone wild and overgrown. And Jenny, after about a week or 10 days, Patsy came back to me, and he had the most of the song written. And so I said, God, it sounds great. And it's probably it would be one of the most popular songs that I would have recorded now since I came on the scene, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course Jennifer Johnson is another big hit that you had as well. And
Jennifer was a great song too, yeah, because another man that I used to love singing and still love him is Conway Twitty. He passed away quite young as well, you know. He was coming back from doing a gig somewhere, and he was coming back to Nashville. And the Jenny, he got an aneurysm in his stomach, the poor fella, and he never made it back to the hospital. It seemed he was out in the wild somewhere anyway, but that's what happened in Conway. And he was some singer. Like, you want to hear that man doing slow songs, I'm sure you probably have a lot of his stuff, you know.
Oh, yeah. No.
Hello, Darling was big.
Yeah.
It was a massive hit for him, you know.
A huge hit, yeah. And of course, you go over to Scotland. I know Margaret Moore is listening in, and she was saying that she loves.
Oh, Margaret, Julie, I know Margaret very well indeed. Yeah. And Shirley.
And she was wishing you well after your operation.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Margaret. And Diane, of course, I know them for years. Great fans of mine, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, and she was saying as well that she loves your new single, and
great.
Looking forward to seeing you live. I'm sure, aren't we all, as the fellow says, but...
Well, hopefully now, maybe, it'll hardly be this year, I wouldn't think, but maybe, you'd never know what might happen now after this year, you know, maybe the thing might come back again, hopefully. The bloody virus is going to determine a lot of things, you know.
It is. That's the unfortunate thing about it, like, you know, and I have Anne Cannon is sending you greetings.
Oh, yeah, I know Anne as well, too. She's a Galway girl, yeah.
Galway girl, yeah.
I know Anne for years, yeah. She's a lovely person, yeah.
Lovely person, yeah. And she said to say hello to you from Galway, actually. So
that's great, Anne. Thanks a million, yeah.
And of course, then Geraldine in Valencia, she's wishing you well, and she said to say hello to you. Yeah, so she's a big fan of yours down there as well. She says.
You have them from every part of the country and every part of the world as well, I'd say.
Well, if you win, sure you know our Alice on the station, Alice O'Keefe, don't you?
Yeah, Alice surely, yeah.
Now, I'd say you could, well, Margaret Moore, as I say, is a big fan, but I'd say Alice now could put it up to her. Alice is on our station here as well, on Irish Country Music Radio. She has her own show. And a great show it is too.
That's fantastic, isn't it?
But she's over there in Newfoundland, and she...
My God.
Oh, I tell you. Actually, do you remember a couple of years ago that when we had our 10-year celebration and Alice came over, and of course it had to be Mick. It had to be a Mick gig that we went to. No one else, only Mick Flavin was going to do it for Alice.
Yeah.
So
They're great people, aren't they?
Oh yeah. Oh, Alice. Oh, she's one of the best, and of course Anne O'Halloran as well. And she's our glitter queen. She's listening in.
I know Anne too, Lovely person,
And Julie Healy is listening in. She said.
And Julie, Julie works on that station as well, doesn't she?
She does, yeah. And so does Anne.
I know Julie, She's a fair old writer herself, Julie.
Oh, she is, She's very much
so, she wrote a great song there. Was it last year, I think, Yeah, she's over there in Glenamaddy. About Big Tom and that.
Yeah, she's a huge fan of Big Tom, of course. And being a lady from Glenamaddy, of course, where the four country roads and all come from. And
she's a good singer as well, Julie.
Oh yeah, she's not a bad one at all. Not a bit bad at all. A good old voice on her.
Oh
And Christine Whitmore is listening in over there as well. She's in England, and she said to say hello to you.
Oh, thanks, Christine. Thanks a million. Yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, and over there as well in Bedford in England is Michelle Orr. She said to say hello to you. Yeah. And you have a lot of fans there. And
well, England was always good for us, and I remember one of the first places we would have played in, apart from the Galtee, would have been, we played a lot back in Luton, in the Labour Club and places like that, Beach Hill and that. They were fantastic times then, and there was a lot of Irish people around Luton that time, And then we played for club, a guy, John Nolan, we used to play in Club Éireann, and that was a terrific venue as well. But it's sad really, when you look back and see all the great venues there was, and a lot of them are gone now,
Yeah, I'd say, you must, like, when you were travelling England, like, I mean, it wouldn't be, I mean, Ireland, you'd travel from one end of Ireland to the other in 4 or 5 hours, like, I mean.
You would,
You'd only be, you wouldn't even be halfway up England, like, I mean, in 4 or 5 hours.
No, England, and I mean, if you take in Scotland as well, it's huge,
Huge, yeah.
It's an unbelievable distance, like, and I know it's a big country now, England, apart from Scotland or Wales. We used to play Wales too as well, a bit, Aberystwyth, Played there a few times, for John, a man called John Dudley. He's passed away too, the poor fellow,
Yeah.
Sure, look, it's amazing the years the way they change things,
I'd say you must have had to do, a turn from one gig to another, like, I mean, because, it wouldn't always work out whereby you'd have 2 gigs close to each other in the of England. Like, I mean, you could have one in Manchester tonight and another one in the Galtee tomorrow night.
That's right, that happened us indeed many a time. I remember we were played in London, I think it was on a Thursday night, and we were going up to play in Manchester on the Good Friday. So we were thinking to ourselves, look, this is going to be great now. There'll be nobody on the road,
Yeah.
Little did we know, God bless us, it was one of the worst days you could be, because everybody was moving, and they were going away for the weekend, you see. It took us, I think, about 7 hours to get from London to Manchester, It's unbelievable, Oh, no. But the roads are crazy over there anyway with traffic,
Oh, and I remember actually going to do a gig myself one time, and we were trying to make time, and I know now any police or guards are listening in. I'm only joking when I say this, but I think it was something like 110 miles an hour along the motorway, tearing along. And next thing I was blown off it, and this lad was going out by me the very same as I was stopped.
I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy, yeah. I've cracked down a lot on that too,
Yeah. Now, Mags McGath over there in Manchester said to say hello to you as well.
I know Mags very well indeed, yeah. She's a good friend of mine, Mags, and gives me a lot of airplay. She's a great programme herself there.
Oh, right.
She works on a radio station there in Manchester,
Yeah, well, hello there to Mags, and great to have you listening in, Mags. And,
thanks, Mags.
And Nicola Arnold is listening in as well. She has the whole family there. Nicola, she has Sonny, that's the hubby. And, then Kaylee is the oldest there. She only turned 20 recently. And then there's the 2 twins. There's Aoife and Ian, and they're listening in there. Yeah. Ian, of course, a big
lovely,
fan.
Isn't it?
Oh yeah, they're great fans of yours,
Yeah, that's fantastic, yeah.
And Alice is actually absolutely delighted that you said hello to her. So there you are now.
I hope they're all well in Newfoundland.
Yeah, and actually, would you believe it's 603 miles from John O'Groats to Land's End, from one end of England to the other.
Gee,
that's what Christine Whitmore has sent me in there. So next time you're over there and you're wondering how long or how far it is,
that's a hell of a journey, isn't it?
Yeah. So you have it there now. You know, you're getting an education in every sort of way tonight, Mick.
What's that?
I say you're getting an education in a lot of different ways.
I'm telling you. Actually, many a time I pounded them all roads, and you wouldn't be, well, you'd be thinking, how long is it going to take me? You'd be sort of working out the hours, you know, and this kind of thing. But, look at it. It's all part of the business. That's the hardest part of it, really, you know.
Yeah.
The hardest part of it is travelling, you know.
It's a fact, truth. Like, I mean, no one sees
getting
that.
Getting up on a stage and doing a gig for a couple of hours is
the easy
lovely.
part.
You know, it's the easy part. It's the travelling, and you know, it's a killer sometimes, you know.
And we have Tommy Greville is listening in there as well, and
right.
And Michael McGlowan, he's I don't know whether you know Michael or not. He would be on the scene himself.
Right.
Yeah, he's up there in
Sligo. Michael, is he down in Sligo way?
Sligo, yeah, that's him. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, I know Michael. Yeah.
A great gentleman too, of course, and a great man on the squeeze box.
Yes.
And Maureen Burke is up there in Leitrim.
Lovely.
Yeah, lovely Leitrim, actually. Yeah, just going to say just like Larry Cunningham would have said, like, you know, lovely Leitrim.
Yeah.
But
I had a lovely song out a few years ago. John Farry wrote it, actually. It's a good, come back a good few years ago. It's called My Wild Rose of Leitrim. Yeah. It's a lovely song, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too sure now whether Maureen would be wild or not, but
yeah.
But yeah, we'll actually have to root that out and play it there at some stage.
Yeah, I forget which album it's on, Seamus, but it's a really good song, yeah. It's a waltz, My Wild Rose of Leitrim, yeah.
Wild Rose, we'll definitely have to check that out anyway. We'll definitely have to check that out. Well, I tell you, I'm just conscious of the fact that Joe Harrington is going to be on now in a few minutes. So,
Joe, yeah.
Yeah, Joe Harrington, yeah.
Lyra Compon, is it?
You're after catching me unawares here now, yeah, he does a show here on Irish Country Music Radio as well, Joe. But
I know Joe because I played for him one time down in Kerry. He's from Kerry, yeah.
Yeah, he's a Kerry man, a proud Kerry man.
That's the name of the place he comes from, Lyra Compon, yeah.
Oh God, yeah. I was wondering I was trying to figure out what the Lyra. I wasn't sure whether it was a nickname he had or what it was, but sure.
Yeah.
Lyra Compon. Well, actually, Joe is going to be on in a few minutes, so I'm going to have to, unfortunately, because I'm loving the conversation here and the great chat and all and the stories and everything, Mick.
Great, Seamus. Yeah, I'm delighted to be with you on your show tonight, and thanks a million for having me, and thanks to everybody who phoned in or texted in or emailed in. I want to say a million thanks to everybody, and you know, don't forget, if you want to buy the new album, you can just look it up on my website. I have a new website now. It's www.mickflavin.co.uk. So anybody that would like to maybe get a copy of that for Christmas, it'll be available from the 18th of November. We're in November now, yeah.
Yeah, in November now, yeah. So today? So in around about a fortnight's time. Yeah, because today so it'll be a fortnight from tomorrow. Then the album, so it's www.mickflavin.co.uk if you're looking to get a new album. And any album of Mick's is definitely worth having. Because I have a few of them myself, and there's you have every sort of music in it. And as I said, Mick, one of the last true old style country voices.
Thanks.
So definitely worth checking out, folks. Definitely
the last of the Mohicans.
Well, I tell you, I'm going the opposite way. Like the Mohican usually has the hair down the middle and the shaving on the sides. I decided to go the other way myself.
Seamus, it's a pleasure to talk to you, and hopefully we'll be able to meet up at a gig somewhere soon.
Definitely. Looking forward to it, Mick. Looking forward to it.
That's great, and just want to wish everybody a happy Christmas. I know it's not that far away, but when I'm on here now, I'd just like to wish them all a happy Christmas and a happy New Year. Hopefully we'll all be able to meet up in the New Year, please God.
Please God. Looking forward to it, Mick. Looking forward to it.
All right, Seamus.
So thanks a million, Mick. And
thanks a million.
And as I say, the gentle giant from Longford, Ballinamuk in Longford, Mr. Mick Flavin, and I'm going to play him out with my favourite Mick Flavin song, Papa's Wagon. Thanks a million, Mick.
Lovely. God bless you, Seamus. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Mick. Thank you.
Bye.
I can see us now riding in a brand new wagon, happy as the king upon a throne. Papa wearing overalls and Mama with her bonnet.
Bringing you the best in country and Irish music. This is your station, irishcountrymusicradio.com.